There's a version of Patrick Star the show accidentally created and then spent 20 years trying to bury. And most fans never noticed it, not because it isn't there, but because the show hides it behind jokes. I'm talking about the episodes where Patrick stops being stupid cute and becomes something else entirely. Jealous, manipulative, and in rare, terrifying moments, actually intelligent. The writers treat these as one-off gags, but when you watch them in sequence, they form a pattern, a timeline, a warning. Because hidden across SpongeBob's entire history are moments, real canon moments, where Patrick shows us exactly what he'd look like as a villain. The jealous rage from Valentine's Day, the cold dismissal in SmartPants,
Patrick needs love too!
the mindless destruction when Plankton takes control. And when you put those moments together, they paint a picture the show will never acknowledge, but it's impossible to unsee. So today, we're following that dark timeline, all the way to its darkest conclusion. What would really happen if Patrick Star finally snapped, and SpongeBob had to face his best friend as his worst nightmare? Here's the question that makes this whole theory work. What could actually push Patrick over the edge? The guy who forgot his own name, who thinks mayonnaise is an instrument, who literally lives under a rock. What breaks him? The answer is simpler and more disturbing than you think. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Remember Valentine's Day? Patrick didn't just get upset when he thought SpongeBob forgot him. He went berserk, full rampage mode, terrorizing carnival goers, destroying property, becoming a walking natural disaster with abandonment issues. And that was over a delayed gift. Not even forgotten, just delayed. But Valentine's Day wasn't the only time Patrick snapped. There's an episode that's even darker, and almost everyone forgets it. What if that jealousy festered over something bigger? SpongeBob has a job he loves, a pet who likes him, awards and recognition. Patrick watches his best friend succeed while he exists under a rock. An evil Patrick driven by jealousy would follow the cruelest logic. If I can't be happy, nobody can. Here's where things get tragic. Patrick's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed, which makes him perfect manipulation material. And if jealousy wasn't enough to push Patrick over the edge, there's someone in Bikini Bottom who would love to speed it up. In the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, Plankton unleashes his most terrifying plan. He brainwashes the entire population of Bikini Bottom with his mind control helmets, turning the whole town into a chanting, obedient army repeating, "All hail Plankton." And here's the disturbing part. Patrick wasn't controlled in the movie, but he didn't have to be. Plankton proved he can take over an entire city with almost no resistance, which means someone as trusting and simple as Patrick would be the easiest target he could ever ask for. If Plankton wanted to break SpongeBob, he wouldn't go after him directly. He'd go after Patrick, the one person SpongeBob cares about more than anyone, turning his best friend into the ultimate psychological weapon. Here's what makes this heartbreaking. Patrick wouldn't even fully understand he's the bad guy. He'd be doing terrible things while some part of him remains confused about why everyone he loves is running away in terror. And in one episode, Patrick proves he doesn't even need mind control to become dangerous. And yes, we'll get to that episode shortly. But everything so far, that's nothing compared to what happens when Patrick actually starts thinking. What if Patrick had a moment of devastating clarity? The realization that everyone sees him as the town idiot could hit differently when you're actually aware of it. But here's the chilling part. In Patrick's SmartPants, we already saw a preview of evil Patrick, and fans still overlook what he actually did. A brain transplant temporarily made Patrick super intelligent. And you know what he did? He ended his friendship with SpongeBob. Just straight up told his best friend they'd grown apart. SpongeBob was crushed, and Patrick didn't even care. Now, imagine a darker version of that awakening. Instead of becoming intellectually snobbish, Patrick becomes bitter, resentful.
Patrick, what do you think about this problem?
You simply change the literal term to a coefficient, and the minuend will achieve the desired quotient.
Angry at a world that's laughed at him his entire life. He could decide that being the lovable dummy got him nowhere, so maybe being feared would give him the respect he never earned through kindness. Now, here's where the theory turns from funny to genuinely disturbing. Now that Patrick's made his villainous turn, what kind of villain would he actually be? Patrick as pure, unstoppable destruction. A villain who doesn't bother with elaborate schemes because that's never been Patrick's style. Remember how he literally tried to tear apart an entire carnival? Now multiply that energy by 1,000 and sustain it over weeks. Evil Patrick would rampage through Bikini Bottom like an underwater Godzilla, flipping boats, smashing buildings, turning the peaceful ocean floor into his personal demolition derby. The terrifying part? Patrick's unpredictability has always been his defining trait. You can't strategize against someone who doesn't have a strategy himself. Evil Patrick in full rage mode would be like trying to reason with a hurricane. The catchphrase practically writes itself.
Patrick, smash!
But raw destruction isn't the scariest version of Patrick. What if we've been played this entire time? What if Patrick has been playing dumb all along? There have been moments, brief, fleeting moments, where Patrick has said or done something suspiciously clever. Fans have joked about this for years, pointing to scenes where Patrick seems to momentarily break character with a knowing look or surprisingly insightful comment. An evil Patrick who's actually been hiding his intelligence would be terrifying. Why? Because he knows everyone intimately. He knows SpongeBob's weaknesses, his fears, his daily routine. He knows where Squidward hides his clarinet, what makes Sandy's inventions tick, exactly when Mr. Krabs counts his money. Patrick has been the ultimate inside man all along, gathering intelligence while everyone assumed he was just existing. This version would weaponize manipulation, turning friends against each other with carefully placed lies that sound too stupid to be intentional. His tactics would look clumsy, but that's the disguise. Underneath lurks someone far more calculating than anyone suspected. And if you're wondering about that darker episode, it's I'm Was Stupid. Patrick manipulates SpongeBob into humiliating himself, and he does it with complete, chilling awareness. Realistically, evil Patrick would land somewhere between these extremes. Not quite a genius, but showing unexpected flashes of cunning. Not a cold machine, but capable of terrifying emotional outbursts. Think childlike villainy, tactics that sound ridiculous but actually work. Offering free cookies to lure people into traps. Using his jellyfishing net as a weapon. Hiding in plain sight because nobody expects Patrick to be hiding at all. If jealousy drives him, his goal becomes personal and simple. Systematically take away everything SpongeBob loves. Shut down the Krusty Krab, release the jellyfish, kidnap Gary. Make SpongeBob feel the emptiness Patrick has felt. But everything so far is nothing compared to the emotional destruction that would follow. Because the most devastating aspect of Patrick's turning evil isn't the property damage or town-wide panic. It's what this would do to SpongeBob SquarePants, the most optimistic, loyal, loving sponge in cartoon history. Patrick is SpongeBob's everything, his best friend since forever, his jellyfishing partner, his confidant, his fellow adventurer. So what happens when that world shatters? SpongeBob would refuse to believe it's happening. We've seen him devastated by much smaller friendship ruptures. In Patrick's SmartPants, when Patrick ended their friendship, SpongeBob sat alone sobbing, drawing a fake friend on his finger because he couldn't cope with the loneliness. Now imagine SpongeBob watching Patrick actively trying to hurt him or others.
Patrick, buddy, what are you doing? This isn't funny anymore.
His voice would crack. Those big blue eyes would swell up with tears. He'd probably still try to give Patrick a hug, thinking everything would go back to normal with enough affection. When that doesn't work, when Patrick pushes him away or worse, actually strikes him, the heartbreak would be complete. SpongeBob would experience a betrayal so profound it would shake his entire worldview. And sadly, this has happened in the show. Not exactly like this, but close. And when you remember the moment, it hits different. But here's the thing about SpongeBob. He doesn't give up on people, ever. After the initial shock, SpongeBob would transition into rescue mode. He'd take personal responsibility for saving Patrick, viewing it as his duty as a best friend. We'd get multiple
I know you're still in there
moments. SpongeBob desperately trying to reach the real Patrick beneath the evil exterior. Maybe he'd bring Patrick's favorite foods. Maybe he'd show up with old photos, tearfully narrating each memory.
Remember this, Patrick? This was the day we became best friends forever.
The beautiful tragedy? SpongeBob would likely choose nonviolence even when his own life is threatened. He'd rather take the hits, hoping each one would make Patrick realize what he's doing. SpongeBob might literally stand between Patrick and innocent victims, arms spread wide, tears streaming.
If you're gonna hurt someone, hurt me. But please, Patrick, please remember who you are.
The hero can't bring himself to fight the villain because the villain is his best friend. It's a conflict with no good solution, only heartbreaking choices. And this is where the theory stops being fun and becomes genuinely heartbreaking. Even if Patrick is eventually saved and redeemed, the psychological scars on SpongeBob would linger. He'd be forever changed. That innocence, the belief that friendship is simple and pure and unbreakable, would be tarnished. He'd probably develop anxiety around Patrick, constantly watching for warning signs.
You're not feeling evil today, right, buddy? Just checking.
Their friendship would need rebuilding, awkward moments, careful conversations, slow healing. SpongeBob would forgive Patrick immediately because he's SpongeBob, but forgetting would be harder. Sometimes he'd wake up from nightmares where Patrick's chasing him with murderous intent. And in the absolute darkest timeline, if Patrick couldn't be saved, that would break SpongeBob entirely. We'd see him visiting villain Patrick in whatever underwater prison they created, bringing Krabby Patties and reminiscing about better times, tears perpetually in his eyes, hoping against hope that someday his friend would come back to him. For a show that typically resets to status quo every episode, this scenario introduces something the series never touches: permanent consequences, permanent emotional damage, permanent loss of innocence. It would mark the end of SpongeBob's childhood, the moment he learned that even the strongest love can't always save someone from darkness. But knowing SpongeBob, knowing his resilient spirit and boundless capacity for hope, he'd never stop trying. Even if it took years, even if everyone else gave up, SpongeBob would be there, offering friendship to a friend who had forgotten how to receive it. And honestly, that's what makes SpongeBob such an enduring character. His optimism isn't naive, but a choice he makes every single day, even when the world gives him every reason to become cynical. And the scariest part? The show has already given us hints that this timeline isn't as far-fetched as it seems. Because deep down, Patrick turning evil isn't the scary part. It's SpongeBob learning that love doesn't always save the people you care about. So here's the real question. After everything they've been through in the actual show, the fights, the misunderstandings, the moments Patrick has genuinely hurt SpongeBob, could their friendship survive if Patrick truly turned evil? The real story isn't just, what if Patrick turned evil? It's, could SpongeBob maintain hope in the face of that ultimate betrayal? And I think, deep down, we all want to believe he could. Because if SpongeBob can hold on to hope through that, maybe there's hope for all of us when our own relationships face their darkest tests. Pretty heavy stuff for a cartoon about a porous yellow rectangle living in a pineapple, huh? But that's why we're still talking about it 25 years later.